Hey, Brad, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can.
Good, good. Thank you.
You're a little quiet, Randall, but I can hear you.
Okay, thank you.
Told you, is that some of your hand painting over your left shoulder?
Is that what?
Is that some of your freehand painting that's over your left
It
hand?
is. That's my nieces and nephews made me that, and my great nieces and nephews.
Oh, I thought you taking on some artistic work.
No, three of my nieces and nephews made it when they were little, and then they all got together and had their kids make another one for me. Guess what I do with my day? I fingerprint. Fingerprint.
Delicate fingers.
Dr. Bob?
Hey, how are you?
Good. I know that Austin had an appointment at 5:30,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
if that's what we're waiting on, I don't know if I'd wait on him. You all might ought to just go ahead and start one of your meetings.
Okay.
And
If nobody has any objection, we'll do health and welfare first, because I know we've got some other folks that are on the line specifically to hear the discussion and to hear about the events over the last several days. So why don't I call health and welfare to order? And before I call the roll, I need a motion from the committee to add Commissioner Culler to our group. If I could have a motion in a second.
So moved.
Okay, Commissioner Johnson made the motion, Commissioner McCamey the second. As per the new rules and regs from the comptroller's office, we have to call the roll. There has to be a voice vote. And while we keep that in mind, instead of answering yay or nay, please say yes or no. Apparently the recordings are a little bit difficult to hear when staff goes back and tries to do the minutes from the recordings. So just let me call the roll to add Commissioner Culler to our committee this evening. Commissioner Hill?
Aye.
Commissioner Holdren?
yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Jenkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner McCamey?
Yes.
And Commissioner Acuff, yes. So.
Chairman, I'll change my vote to yes. I'm sorry.
What'd you say? I didn't know.
I said aye, force of habit. I'm so sorry. Yes.
Okay. All right. So thank you. It's unanimous. Commissioner Culler is sitting in from her district tonight for Ray Lyons until we get to the September distribution of committees and who will be where.
Thank you.
So we'll go off of that roll call vote as individuals who are present. I need a motion now to approve the agenda. It's a very short meeting tonight because of the content. So if there's a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve is presented.
Okay,
I'll
is there a
second.
second from Commissioner McCamey? The primary was Commissioner Hill. So roll call vote again. Commissioner Culler? Commissioner Culler?
I believe you're muted.
I'm having trouble. Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Hill?
Yes.
Commissioner Holdren?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Jenkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner McCamey?
Yes.
And Commissioner Acuff, yes. So the agenda is approved. We have a number of individuals on the line for the public. Either they have used the Zoom link or they have dialed in to be a part of the meeting. So we will open this portion of the meeting to public comment if there is any. Any of the public wishing to address health and welfare? Okay, I've seen none, no hands raised anywhere, no irate looks. So we will close public comments and move into the meat of the agenda tonight is broadband internet discussion. Just to catch everybody up to speed a little bit, Commissioner Holdren and I last week met with Lee Brown, who is the General Director for Irwin Utilities, as well as John Williams, who is the Director of their broadband internet service. We had a very good discussion with them. They were very open and gave some great advice. We passed along a slide set that John provided, and you should have also received a YouTube video that he was on the first 20 minutes talking about the efforts and how they did what they did at Irwin Utilities. So Commissioner Holdren, if you were at the meeting, if you have any comments, you may want to weigh in as well in case I didn't cover it adequately or more needs to be said.
No, I was just concerned, I guess you would say, when I saw that they had been working on it since 2009. And we're trying to do a grant in about a month's time. So I became very scared about our timeline. But then after talking with Crystal today, I feel a little more confident and hopeful about it.
Yeah. So if you didn't get those documents or the YouTube file, it should become part of the meeting because I think those have been indicated in other documents, but I'll make sure that Gwen gets a copy so they can become a part of the recorded record for the public as well. Today, around 3 p.m., Ken Ray from First Tennessee Development District arranged for several of us. It was open to any of you that wanted to be there, as well as members of the press and public if they so desired, to sit in and talk with Crystal Ivy, who is the state broadband director, and is her group is the ones that fall under economic and community development, and primarily were established as part of rural outreach. And so we had a great discussion with Crystal for about 45 minutes today. I think that she was very surprised that we have moved ahead as quickly as we have. She says usually when she has a meeting with a county, the first thing that comes out of their mouth is, well, what do we need to do? So when we gave her our synopsis, I think she was very impressed that we had touched many of the bases that we needed to touch moving forward. those on the call, of course, with Ken Ray, Commissioners Hill, Holdren, and Culler. Mayor Barnett was on there. I was on there. Of course, Crystal Ivy, director. One of their grant managers, Emily, and Verena Hopper, who is in Crystal's office, as well as Sonia Miller and a few other of our interested folks that want to be a part of the broadband effort. So we appreciate that they were on there. I'll let Commissioners Holdren, Hill, and Culler, or the mayor, weigh in on your impressions. But my impression was, I think she was impressed and indicated to us that we stand a very good path going forward to get this done. And we can explain a little bit more about what that might look like in just a few minutes. So any of you all want to comment, please do.
I would just echo what you're saying. I thought she even said, I'm impressed.
Yeah.
She actually used those words. And like I said earlier, she left me with a lot of hope that we can get something put together in the next month. And I don't know, I hate to say that she was promising, but I really feel that way in my heart. She seemed so positive about the community involvement, the educational piece, the medical piece. She just really left me with a very positive feeling about it.
Anja,
I would also echo the same thing, because what I heard, and that we were doing exactly what it's telling us to do, and we've already started doing it. So I'm like Ginger and Dr. Acuff. I think we're on the right track. There's a lot of work to be done. And I agree, Ginger, it's kind of scary and has you worried if they've been working on it that long that we've just had a short time, but I think we're heading in the right direction.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's, it's an effort that all of you all have put in and moved this forward. I think we've touched many bases and we've talked to a lot of people. And I think it will prove to be positive in the long run. I do know that we probably need to have a discussion with the superintendent of schools, and I'll arrange that either later this week or first of next week, as well as look at providers. As many of you may know, if you've looked at the grant language, it requires us to have a provider, an internet provider, or a telephone service that provides internet, or some other utility. And I think we've done our due diligence. I know that Commissioner Hill reached out to Mountain Electric. I won't speak for you, Mike, but you may want to talk a little bit about that conversation. I reached out last week to Daniel Estes, the city manager, about Elizabethton Electric, and he felt that it was certainly out of their purview because many of our locations would be out of the service area for Elizabethton Electric. So Mike, you may want to comment and about your discussion with SkyBest today.
Sure, Chairman, thanks. Mountain Electric expressed absolutely equivocally no interest in engaging in the delivering of broadband services. Their position was that it would cost about $60 million for them to get into the internet business, and it would be a completely separate business than what they're already deploying. And they would have to provide it to their entire service area according to their charter, which extends way into North Carolina as well. I had a teleconference with Mr. Keith and Mr. Tennant from SkyBest yesterday at 11, and described briefly the proposal that we're now working on with the school's facilities serving as a hub, and then reaching spokes out into the community from that hub that's already connected to fiber. Mr. Tennant said that takes a project that would be difficult to get to the starting point and turns it into something that's infinitely more achievable, I think was his exact phrase. So they seem very interested. And I'll pitch back to you, Chairman, and you can talk about your conversation with the E&A people this morning.
Right. thanks to Danny McLean for providing us with contact information for Patrick McGee, who is, I guess, Carter County's contact person at Education Networks of America, and they are located in Nashville. They own the backbone fiber piece that connects our county schools together back to the central office. And my question was to Patrick, pitching the same idea about a hub, having each of our county schools act as a hub, and then for the potential of a commercial entity like SkyBest to actually provide the spokes or the tentacles out into the community, however miles that takes. Would they be interested in talking about that with us? And of course, Patrick said, absolutely, we would. We're all about access, all about providing communities such as yours with the ability to have internet service, particularly broadband internet service at higher speeds. So he is going back to their executive team, and hopefully we'll talk tomorrow about what they can do and if a commercial entity can actually use that backbone, but then run the spokes off to homes and families of individuals that don't have it. I think each of us learned today on a call with with Crystal Ivy, that there is a competition issue here. The federal guidelines state that 25 in terms of its speed is considered the threshold for broadband internet service. And we'll have to maneuver around potentially some companies. Ginger and I found out that even though Irwin Utilities offers that lower speed, they are moving towards a 1 gigabyte speed for their internet service, and wish that's the only thing that they had out there for customers to buy. And I think it's been, I guess in the world of internet, it's been accepted as fairly reasonable, $60, $70 a month. And I know some of our poor families may not be able to afford that speed and would opt for a lower speed, but it's at least something that
I'm sitting here watching this meeting.
that we at least look at that and see what we might or might not do. So at any rate, as soon as we find out from ENA tomorrow, I'll send out to everybody information about that discussion. But again, I think the meeting with Crystal was very positive and gave me some hope, even though we'll be cautiously optimistic as we move forward. But we have come a long way, and I think by putting together the community information and then handing that to somebody like SkyBest and say, now you all do your engineering piece and all the technical stuff that's going to be asked of them before we submit that grant. We also
something.
Go ahead.
This is Ken Ray. Something that I heard from Crystal, and the application is kind of set up this way. There's a community section, and y'all are checking a lot of those boxes by what you're doing right now. And if we can probably supplement it with letters of support. But the surveying that you've done, the meetings that you've held. Crystal said that's a lot of projects leave points on the table by not having the community section well addressed. And I think that's going to be a strength. I think the hard part is going to be defining a project, getting, the basic engineering design of that and the cost estimate together. I think that's where the time's going to be. But you still have to get some answers to questions like, can you use the ENA for a private situation? But I think you're heading the right direction, but we still have a lot to do. So.
Thank you, Ken. Good comments. And we also learned today that the grants that are now open and available, the emergency ones have already been awarded, but Crystal thought we would fit nicely under the ECD grants that is due, as we know, October the 8th. We also found out that the cap on those award is $2 million. But she also gave us a ray of hope that there isn't any downside of submitting more than one. So if we looked at the issue of having our schools as hubs and then run the tentacles out from each of those entities, we could potentially ask for $2 million per facility. Now, I don't know that we would be awarded all of those, probably not, but there is no reason not to think big. As Mike Hill said earlier, they can only tell you no. So I think we should be prepared to go forward. And the good thing is if we work with someone like SkyBest, they are already known to the broadband group in Nashville. They've worked with them. They've already done a lot of the grant work, and we could probably use some of the language, certainly the engineering, because many, I think, of the topography that we experience, not only in Johnson County, but in Unicoi County would be similar to what we would find in Carter County. I think Crystal thought it was quite unique if we can use the backbone for the schools and be able to bring something different to the table would speak well for us in the granting mechanism, including the inclusion of so many potential community partners. So school systems, I know that there is some entity or telemedicine that goes on in county schools, but I think we could broaden that definition and prospect to individuals that don't have that capability or can't use the school's capability, even though there have been, I understand, some offerings made in the past, outreach to families of students. So those of you that were on the call this afternoon, any other thing that we left off or I didn't include in my summary there?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
about 4:30 this afternoon, I received a call from the governor's office, and I did express very, very much so that we were disappointed. We didn't get, a bite on any of the money so far, but they said they were, they'd be looking at trying to help us up this way. I said, I don't know if anybody up this area got any money, but again, I always tell them that the road does not stop in Knoxville. I always say that, so that may hurt us. That may hurt us again. I always say that to him every time, but I did express that we were expecting some help up this way, and of course they're going to help us, but I said we'll see how that goes. So I did express that pretty heartily. So
thank you, Mayor, for doing that. I appreciate you not only being on the call, but keeping after the governor and his staff to do what's right in this area.
Something that the emergency broadband money that they just awarded, that was a very quick process. You had about 15 days, and you basically had to have a project almost designed and ready to go because it has to be installed by December 15th. There was 3 areas. SkyBest got some of the money, and Bright Ridge received some, and Holston Connect down in Hawkins County received some. So, but you basically had to have projects ready to go that you can get done in 4 months. So.
Okay. So, any other comments before we, I guess, sort of look at what needs to be done going forward? Any other comments from folks that were on the call with Crystal, or any other questions that you might have or input that you want to have at this juncture?
Chairman Brad Johnson.
Yes, sir.
So maybe a comment, maybe even a question in relation to the comment that Ken Ray made, that some of the steps that we're going to have to do preliminary wise is, is the designing of the project or the estimating. Now, keeping in mind the development if we go to each school and use it as more or less a satellite for that community, so that means we got, what we have, eight elementary and middle schools, 9, is it? So that may be 9 different projects, which in turn could, once we get started, ones that we could not start, that they would always be held on the shelf for such things like for the last broadband grants we're giving here just readily, to Bright Ridge and the other 3 recipients that can be used, it might can expedite it. But when I was installing token rings and loops and all the internet underground at the VA facility, there was a company, Teleoptics, that everybody's pretty well familiar with in Kingsport at one time, had a division that worked on the outside developing internet token rings and connectivity and running. I don't know if they still do or not, but they had their own design section with their company that was it was less expensive for that route than it was for us on the federal government side to contract out. I don't know, the cost would be, I would think if you was going to put an estimate together, the cost is, from where your base would be, which could be a school, and then we'd put the main cable on the main road, and then you make a connection off it up into your halls. I would say your pricing would have to be, the main part would be the connectivity from a roadside into a house would be one of the majors. So there's more intricate small pieces, parts, and pricing that go in it than you would be for just running the main cable. So we could get an estimate from maybe Sky Best as to what the cost is on residential hookups to where you can get a good base information.
Yeah, we can certainly, and I think that's what the intent was. Ken, I see you're still on the line. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that would be primarily the responsibility of who we partner with in terms of the engineering and the actual fiber company, if you will, or broadband company. They would have that as a part of the engineering piece. They also, as we learned today, have to come up with 50% of the cost. So, and Crystal indicated that counties can put, and or cities, counties can put some of that money on the table as well. So we may want to be able to think about how we can speed it up depending on how much money we can lay on the table. But that would be a discussion that we'll eventually need to have.
Chairman Acuff,
Yes, ma'am.
do we need to have that discussion tonight? Because I'm under the impression that maybe that should be included in the grant. And our full commission will only meet one time before that grant has to be submitted. So if there's going to be a recommendation put forth from this committee, it has to come tonight. And he did seem to indicate that that would strengthen our grant application if we were willing to put some skin in the game, was the exact phrase she used. And she also, I'll just throw this out, I took some notes, and one of the facts she mentioned was that if awarded the largest grant possible, which is $2 million, that takes care of about 200 homes on average, she said. And like Irwin has done a large portion of Unicoi County at this point, and they've spent $27 million. So just to give you an idea of how far $2 million is going to go, it's not going to go very far. But she said, and I mean, Dr. Acuff has done a great job of reiterating some of the main points, but I'll just say this again, that she, SkyBest will be responsible for that technical portion, Commissioner Johnson, but the where we come in is maybe on some monetary support and definitely on the community partnerships. Any information that we can provide about the lacking of broadband for our families, partnerships with education, partnerships with the medical group, anything like that, building off of infrastructure that's already in place. That's where our intel is so important to provide the SkyBest to help them write this grant.
Good comments. Good comments.
Chairman, Commissioner Hill,
Yes, sir.
I think we also need to look at, and one of the things that the folks in Unicoi had mentioned, and I believe Ms. Ivy today, or maybe that was Edward and SkyBest. I've had so many of these online meetings, they're all beginning to kind of bleed together, but they did imply that broadband loans were easier to get from the USDA, and they come with a rate of interest, and it is something that has to be paid back. But if an allocation isn't necessarily easy to get, perhaps we could borrow a portion of the 50% match and go in as a partner with whoever the provider might be. I will ask about an estimate on the cost on the residential connections tomorrow. I'm supposed to report back to those guys with information from tonight's meeting. So I'll try to get a good answer for that for you, Commissioner Johnson. And Mayor, if I could, have we gotten any response? The Star ran the broadband survey in the paper, and I believe provided the mayor's office address for a place to return them. Has any of that come in at all?
I haven't received. Abby, have you received anything?
No, we've not received anything like that addressed to the mayor's office, either in the mail, email, and no phone calls either.
Okay, that's kind of expected, I think. But I mean, we've made a pretty good effort to get that survey out to as many people as we could. I think I sent around 2 days ago the final results from the Survey Monkey. It was about 415 respondents, and the numbers didn't change much from the synopsis I presented last month.
Yeah.
Mike, can we take that data and maybe try to develop some areas that we know don't have capable broadband? Do you think there's that type detail there?
Well, the first respondents, before I made it mandatory, didn't give an address, but about 400 of the 415 respondents to the Survey Monkey gave an address and their assessment of the quality of connectivity, if there was any, that they had. So, we can identify areas. I mean, we all pretty much know where the pockets are that have nothing.
Yeah.
And I think we could make an educated guess based on the Survey Monkey and whatever may still be forthcoming from the school system. I haven't received any of those surveys that were sent out about the computer access in the households and all that sort of business. But I'm under the impression that we're still gonna see that at some point.
Yeah, I think that's something we could do for SkyBest that would make their job a little easier. So, and I'd be glad to take the data and try to map it or whatever we need to do.
Mr. Ray, have you not been getting the emails?
I have. Yeah.
Okay. Because I can send what I've got, which isn't much. It's only the one survey, but I'll happily send that over.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Brad Johnson.
Yes, sir.
Have we, has anybody given any consideration or see what the cost would be if we done a direct mail out based on, I'm going to say, the alpha list of the voters registration or the alpha list of car registration or some source of alpha list that we have in the county, which would have a return postage on it to where they can do a survey and put it in the mailbox? Because, what was in the Star was you know, the write-up was great, but as far as the sample, even Stevie Wonder couldn't have been able to interpret that. And it didn't have anything that would direct them or give them any, even be curious to use to send it back while we're not getting anything. But if we could wonder what the cost of a direct mail out return would be for this.
Just the postage would be about $30,000 if it went out to, well, I mean, if you base that on 56,000 citizens.
Okay, they're on 56, but if you took it down to regionalize it in our county, our hardest hit is, I know the zone 2, but be our southern part, eastern part, and the northeast part would be more than 75% of our deficiencies. I have a little bit on the west end over here, but it has to deal with economics more than it is topography as far as that's concerned.
So if you took 1,400 registered voters roughly in District 2 and put 2 stamps on that, and not the cost of the print matter, of course, but or the envelope, you'd have about $1,540 in postage.
Okay, don't you feel, or do you think from those numbers that it'd be more than worthy that we do such a thing? I mean, it'd be quicker, it'd be more direct, and we might could even tie on the local media to help us advertise that it is in the mail to get it back.
Yeah, I'm willing we should be willing to entertain that. I guess my only concern is this is September 1st. The grant deadline is October 8th. Do we have enough time, even if we had a mass mailing by Friday, to get it back? I mean, I don't know. I remember when Gary Smith was doing some mail outs for EMS or EMA about surveys and justifying certain things. They had a slow return and they were out beating the bushes. I would hope that more people would step up and understand the critical nature of what broadband would do. And with the hybrid situation in schools, I don't even know if we could go to the superintendent or to Danny McLean and say, you know, can you distribute these to your family and guarantee they'll be back in a day or 2 days at the max?
Well, you know, it was more likely, I would say pushing it would be 2 weeks worth of process. Because there'd have to be an explanation letter to go with it or on the opposite side how it's designed. And that was a great idea, Doc, is, you know, our main source or our main client is the families of the children that are in our schools. And that is a great distribution point. It's a good receiving point. Then if they're just going to put it in the mail, they may just wait around the house a while. But if that child takes there, you've got that youth saying, all right, I need that to take back to my school. Because they're conscious of it and the adult ain't.
All right. Well, I mean, we could certainly entertain that. You know, I need to reach out to Superintendent McAbee anyway to get him up to speed on what we're thinking. And I know he's drinking from a fire hose right now, trying to get himself positioned in our county. But I think he could give us a few minutes to see if that is doable. What do other committee members think? Or Ken, you probably have done some surveys for First Tennessee Development District. How successful have those been?
Yeah, we actually worked with Gary on the CDBG grant for the, and I think we sent out, you had to send it, we sent out about 400 or 500, I think. And I think we got about 10% back. And it took, they pretty much come in, if they don't come in within the first 10 days, after that, you don't get very many at all. But the response rate's fairly low.
Dr. Kemp, also, you know, I could see that we're even at a push to shove situation. I, as a commissioner, I don't mind standing there in the parking lot of the school when they're dropping off those youngins and be there when they pick those youngins up to receive the survey. But it needs a little bit of push behind, such as the organizations we're going to be in a school. We need the principal to be aware of what we're doing, and then they can also be our supporter inside the school to give instruction to help out in that way, try to expedite it even faster. I think we may be able to beat the time by mail by doing that, as one unless somebody has another idea of.
So what I'm hearing, I would think we would need a motion to approach the superintendent of schools and probably some school board members, but that'll be up to him to pull them in to see if they would be willing to partner with us to send out a questionnaire and asking the kids to have mom and dad sign it out or grandparents and send them back in ASAP. Maybe they get extra points for the day or something. I don't know. But in a way that we can get a quicker turnaround. I feel like Ken, I know how frustrating it was for Gary and company to do what they did and then fall short the first time that they did that. So, and since we're such on a tight deadline, Commissioner Johnson, I think that's a great idea. Let's go directly to the schools and talk with Superintendent McAbee and see if we can engage them and get some information out there and get it back quick.
Chairman, I think the ad hoc parking lot survey would probably yield more consistent results. Seriously, if we took our clipboards and just went car to car, I pulled that stunt back when they were trying to propose to shut down our emergency medical, our rescue squad substation back right after I came on the job. And, you know, we experienced a good number of people that came to county court that night. But then we actually don't have to wait for them to fill it out. We just check the boxes ourselves and bring them back to whenever we reconvene. I'm down for the physical challenge. I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I would certainly take, you know, Cloudland Elementary and just go car to car.
Okay.
But in such small schools that we have in those districts, such as, of course, Cloudland's pretty excited, but Cloudland, Little Milligan, Unaka, Hunter, that takes care of that south and north and east section of the county. We can hit it pretty fast, and I think we should be able to reap some pretty good surveys and information. But being under the gun, that means that if you all have the extra time, and I'll be willing to too, even our fellow commissioners in our zone can help us do that, rather, you know, be ready in a couple of weeks to do it.
Right.
I think if you get you.
Go ahead, Commissioner Kohler.
How many people are being picked up? You know, out of 25% of the students, what's the percentage that parents are coming and dropping them off and picking them up and riding the bus? You got to think about that.
Well, you'd have to, you know, you'd probably have to do it more than one day, maybe 2 days or 3, because of the way that the education system is set up to having half there for 2 days and then half at home on virtual. It may take more than 1 or 2 days, but it's something that could be accomplished within a week, I would think.
But again,
maybe
what are you doing about the kids that are riding the school bus?
So maybe we pad them and distribute them through the school bus garage. I'd probably get you a bigger number of kids, and you would at least know that it got to the door.
But if you said you know, I sat in school zones as a law officer, controlling traffic and watch and observe school buses coming in with 2 little heads on them, followed by 50 grandparents bringing their children to school. The ratio on them being dropped off privately rather than school buses is a great big number. That may be different at a different school, but in the 2 where I were at daily, that's what the census was.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I always think outside the box. What about roadblocks, Mr. Johnson?
Well,
Permit for a roadblock, you know?
Chairman, I've got the better solution.
All right, sir.
Sure is.
You should contact the U.S. Census workers and let them do it while they're out. They're vicious, so they'll make sure to get their reports filled out.
That would be wonderful if we weren't on such a tight schedule. I don't think the census workers are on the same schedule that we are. I think they've got a lot more time.
I know, but I tell you, they're vicious. They make sure to get them filled out. They'll come back several times.
Yeah, I
Turn the
know.
lights off, lock the doors, and they still come back.
Okay, so what's the committee's
Chairman Aiko,
wishes? Yes, ma'am.
this is Patty Woodby.
Yes, ma'am.
There's 53 buses and they're averaging 8 to 10 students right now.
Okay.
I mean, but
If I
here's the other problem
could
behind this,
kind of get an idea.
Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I said, so here's the other issue behind this is, and the ones that has children better understands, I guess. I'm not for sure because, I don't have kids. But my niece, if I understood correctly from my sister, it's their option to opt in whether they send their kids back on the 50% right now or not. So that may be something you need to check in with the superintendent and see what our numbers are even coming in at of how many students are even attending school at the moment. Because my niece was supposed to go back this next week, and I believe it was their option whether she even went or not. It was, it's an option to attend the 50% if they feel comfortable. Once they have their laptops and all their stuff. But I'm not 100% sure that I may have misunderstood her.
Chairman.
Yes, go ahead, Rainer.
So, I mean, just like my kid, he doesn't ride the school bus, but I think we was almost on the right track with maybe sending a letter to, to the school board or school board superintendent. I know time is of the essence, but if we could send a letter and it gets to the teachers and they know how important this is, I think the teachers will jump on board and help us get these surveys filled out, or at least get them not filled out, but get them to the students. And, past that, if a fifth grader taking something home, it might make it back, it might not, who knows? But
I've got
go ahead.
Randall, go ahead.
I mean, I do think that's the right route of reaching out to the school board superintendent and going that route. Might be our quickest route. And we can always reach out, in our districts to the principals that we know or some teachers that we know and let them know, hey, pass the word around how important this is to the county and to the youth, that we get this done as a team. So that's just my 2 cents.
Just to
Chairman.
just to Chairman Aiko.
Yes. Go ahead.
So we don't double tap doing the same, I guess, flyer or information. When I signed my child up for school this year on his registration, it asked me, and that's what I discussed with Danny McLean on that, and he was going to try to get us that information if we had internet service. So that information was taken by the schools, and that was what Danny was trying to say. He needed to make sure, because of the violations of making sure we didn't see the names, but it does have my address and whether or not I have internet. And that was part of the registration process with the county schools.
Okay, good point.
Chairman.
Yes.
Another good thing we might be able to do to reach out, I've heard it multiple times, I'm sure every one of you all have. Every one of the schools has the calling system that calls what number is saved. We might have them see if they can't send that out through the calling system. Hey, your child has this survey, please complete it by this date or something.
That's a good idea.
Very good point.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
my one last comment and I'll hush. Uh, social media, everybody gets on Facebook. If we could scan it, put it on Facebook, and somebody could, most people's got, then they could fill it out, send it in, couldn't they?
Well, I think Commissioner Hills was on Facebook. I don't know how many, and you only got how many hits, Mike?
415 total.
And I guess we would all, I know I shared it with those that I'm friends with on Facebook. There's no way to track to see if they responded or not.
Okay.
I guess if we all did that and had everybody on the commission and had school teachers do it and principals do it and everybody else, we might have some results. I don't know.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Isaiah, one thing that I had a question about was we did all share that on Facebook. I had attempted to boost that post as a sort of an ad to try to get that out to more people. Because of the socio-political environment, I guess, that we're in, I had to go through an act of Congress, it felt like, to get approved to attempt to do that, and still in that process. Is that something that with our county Facebook page, to try to cover more individuals, if we could, pump, I think $30 or something, some denomination into that we could boost that as an ad from our page to get that to more individuals? Because the way that those Facebook ads work, you set up your parameters about what age groups that you'd be interested in. I guess targeting is the word that they use, but what age groups you're interested in targeting, and trying to get those out there to get more people to see those. Even if it only captured another 30 or 40 people, I think it would be well worth it. And then I also had a question, if they could, about with the schools, they're utilizing Google Classrooms and Canvas already to push out a lot of their work, and keep these kids kind of informed. That was one of the things that I think that they're supposed to be learning when they go to these when they go back to school. I wonder if we could get with those individuals that are setting up these Google Classrooms and Canvas at the administrative level, and see if we couldn't, either link that survey or put a hard copy of that survey there that at least everybody has access to, that maybe they could fill them out and, just be another driving force. That's just all I had.
Good thoughts. So Abby, I see you're on here. From the county standpoint, do we have the capability to do that?
I will have to get with Brad and see if he'll allow that as a charge under advertising. We do have some money in the advertising budget for that. My concern would be actually processing the payment, because the county's Facebook isn't its own account. It's a government page, which is linked to the moderator's account, which is mine, which my concern would be that it would charge it to my card, and it would be difficult to get reimbursed from the county then.
Yep.
Hey, Abby, it's Isaiah. You can specify which payment or which payment device that you want that pushed out to as a moderator. And it lets you control that, because we've done some for the sheriff's office once upon a time, trying to get information on a burglary, and was able to be very successful in that. So I don't think that'd be an issue with the county credit card, as long as it just meets the money's appropriate line item thing.
Okay, I may get with you then tomorrow and find out more from you about how to do the post boost, because I've never done that before.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you both. And I guess the superintendent periodically holds principals meeting as well. I don't mind meeting with Tracy and asking, one, to make sure that we get his stamp of approval, but let his principals know what we're doing, and certainly get the teachers involved from that mechanism as well. I can do that certainly before the week's over, since we are under the gun here, and just to fill him in, and maybe he can push. And I haven't I don't see that Danny McLean's on here tonight, but Mike Hill and I can reach back out to Danny and see what he might suggest and see, as Commissioner Woodby said, what came in through the registration process on who has internet access and who does not have internet access. We can do
Chairman, I think that information is forthcoming from the schools. I guess they're trying to scrub down to the aggregate data or something, but I got an email from Danny McLean approximately 2 days ago asking if I'd ever received anything, and I replied that I hadn't yet. So I think that's probably still in the pipeline.
Okay.
Chairman Acuff?
Yes, ma'am.
One other thing we might consider, I know Brittany's on here with the Star, but the Star has an email system that they use to send out emails to all their subscribers with like the daily headlines. Maybe partner with them to see if they could send out the link to the online survey, because folks might be a little more inclined to answer it if they see it in their email than if they see it on social media, because it's a little more of a trusted source, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a very good idea.
I'll give Delaney a call tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. I see John, I think John's on here too. John Thompson, we may want to have that discussion with you all as well to see what possibilities there might be. So it seems like each of us have tasks for the moment. I do want to return to Commissioner Holden's discussion about funds on the table that we should take, I guess, next week to Budget Committee to reserve those funds. So can we have a discussion about, Ken, you're still on here, what might be an appropriate amount to ask for? I know we can't ask to cover every school, but we can put up maybe enough money to give to each school or the schools that are awarded grants. Any thoughts on that?
You still thinking?
Yes, sir.
Oh, this is Miss Holden.
Yes, ma'am.
The way you just worded it was a great way of thinking about it, and that was not what I had previously thought. But since we do have the potential to earn more than one, or at least to apply for more than one area, I think it would be good if we said, I don't know, I'm going to throw it, because this is what I had in mind. I had in mind that I was going to make a motion that we approve $200,000, and that would be 10% of what we're hoping to obtain. But since there's a potential for us to get $2 million in more than one place, I might change my thought to maybe 100,000 per awarded area. And just to get the discussion started, I'll throw that out there. And somebody on budget, Miss Patty, maybe somebody tell me, is this broadband something that we can use those specified funds from the state for?
I'll second it, Draco.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not sure.
Chairman Acuff, Austin James.
Yes.
I know that we have the roughly 1.some million that's sitting there that I believe it has a time period that has to be spent, but I believe it's unrestricted. We can do with it as we please. But now there's an additional, I believe if Director Burke had informed me, 800, give or take, thousand that was awarded to us for COVID related things. And that's something we'll have to reach out to him, but that may be a possibility that we may be able to tap into a little bit of that honeypot of that 800,000, because I mean, this is technically COVID's brought a lot of these issues on for us for not being able to educate our students properly, like some of the bigger cities are. So that may, we asked the budget, we asked Director Park if we can use some of that 800,000 to cover some of this, and then the others unrestricted. So.
Okay. Any other thoughts, or somebody wants to make a motion?
thought Ginger had made a motion.
Well, she didn't actually say I make the motion to,
Well, before I make that as a motion, does anybody want to suggest a different number?
Well, the grants are typically a 50-50 split. And the service provider typically puts up 50% out of their coffers. That's how they explained it to us on our discovery call a month ago, how long ago that was. So, I mean, you would probably want to find your suitor and ascertain what they were willing to, how many projects and the scope of the projects they were willing to take on, and then figure out what the county could bring to bear. And again, they have presented to us from a couple of sources that the broadband loans from the federal government are pretty much gimmies because they come with a repayment schedule.
Okay, Commissioner Hill, the federal art grants are different from what we're talking about right now, though, correct?
Yes, right now we're going for the state grant with the deadline of October 8. And we know that that's only $2 million per grant. If $2 million, I think your number was like serviced roughly or could connect roughly 200 homes. And then we applied for a project for all 9 school districts. That would be 1,800 homes. You see what I'm saying? And I don't know what an appropriate number would be to kick in as a government entity to something like this. I think the question would be, what would the service provider be willing to fund, or would they be willing to fund all of it? And could the county's allocation be better used paying for an engineering portion or something else? You know, I don't have an answer to that.
I agree with Commissioner Holder, and I think we do need to set aside a portion. I hate to just pick a number, but the 600,000 with the stipulation that we set that and reserve it until we see where we are in the granting process. And then if it doesn't materialize to the fullest extent that we expect, it goes back to the general fund or to the fund that it came from. But I don't want us to miss not putting something on the table, because I think Crystal Ivy told us today it strengthens the grant application.
I will make that motion, Chairman, to reserve $500,000. What did you say? $500,000 for that purpose?
I think Commissioner Holden had mentioned the figure of 500,000 for that purpose.
Well, I had said 200,000 because that was 10% of 2 million. But since we're going to apply for maybe more than one area, you know, then I don't know what the number should be. I feel like Strong Mountain area needs to apply for a grant. I feel like the Upper Stony Creek area needs to apply for a grant for sure. What other areas do you all feel like we need to look at? Do we need to look at Hampton? Those of you all from Hampton?
Elk Mills and Butler and Pogie definitely,
Most definitely.
are in need. So there's a third potential grant. I would restate the motion to reserve $500,000 contingent on securing grant funding, and otherwise with the understanding that it rolls back into the general fund if it doesn't get used for this express purpose.
Okay, there's a motion on the table. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Commissioner Holden seconds the motion. Further discussion?
Well, looking at the figures, if we're talking about 10%, we're talking about 3 areas, so it should be up to 600.
I will accept that amendment.
I will accept also.
Okay, so now we've got the motion to reserve 600,000 contingent on grant, obtaining the grant success that we're hoping for these potential three projects. Any other discussion?
I have a question, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
we know our deadline to apply is October 8th. Do we know their day for determining the winners of the awards?
Ms. Ivy was not clear on when those would be determined, but I would hope they would receive, and I don't see Ken on here. I guess he left, but I mean, I don't mind reaching out to her tomorrow and asking her what a turnaround time would be. We do know, as you all know, the 61 million emergency broadband internet was a quick turnaround. As Ken said, it was, within weeks, and you had to have if you will, pardon the phrase, shovel-ready project to go forward. So the Bright Bridges and the one in Hawkins County and others, one in Johnson County through SkyBest, I'm sure they've got projects sitting on the shelf that they could just pull off and submit, and we're not quite there. So I'm happy to ask that question, to call her or her staff tomorrow and see what we could expect on the turnaround.
And the reason I ask, it may be obvious, but I'll state it. If we have to spend that particular set of funds by a certain date, we cannot be held up for spending that in another area if we're still waiting on this grant to be determined.
Right.
We're going to have to, as a commission, as a full commission, have other projects in mind so that if we get denied these grants, we're ready to go with something else.
Right. Good point. Good point. Further discussion?
Chairman, I guess the motion should be to bring this before budget committee. I left that piece out.
Right. Well, I would presume that that's where we would go with it, to have it on their agenda. And I know that Commissioner Woodby and Commissioner Grindstaff, I think, are still on. So they'll be cognizant of it, but I can make sure as chair of our committee that it goes to them as a request before their meeting next week. So any other discussion before we call for the vote? Okay, hearing none. Remember to do yes or no, so it's clearly audible. Commissioner Culler.
Yes.
Commissioner Hill.
Yes.
Commissioner Holdren.
Yes.
Commissioner James.
Yes.
Commissioner Jenkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner McCamey.
Yes.
Commissioner Acuff, yes. Passes unanimously. Thank you all for that. I will make a note to send that to Budget Chairman Garland. Any other items that we need to talk about tonight? I mean, many of us have got responsibilities. Do you think we should, instead of adjourning the meeting, do you think we would be better off recessing it so we can come back together one more time at least to see where we are? I don't want us to wait another month to meet because there's lots of things, and it keeps me responsible and those of us with tasks that we have to report back because I know how everybody's life happens to be right now.
I think that's a great idea.
Okay, let me get a calendar, and if everybody will get their calendar out, let's look at a date that we can recess to. Okay, folks, what's your pleasure?
Would it be prudent to come back on the 8th? I mean, that that's 30 days out from the deadline.
Okay. Anybody have a problem with that? Are there other committee meetings that night?
I
I don't wanna
think that
end-
is animal shelter, Dr. Kev.
It is the animal
Second.
shelter. Mhm.
How about the 10th?
10th, September the 10th, 6 p.m. Zoom call. Anybody have problems with that before I ask Commissioner Holden to do that as a motion? Okay, so hearing none,
Motion to, I forgot the word, I'm sorry.
recess.
Recess this meeting till September 10th at 6 p.m.
Second,
Second.
Mike Hill.
Okay, I heard a second from Commissioner Mike Hill. All right, further discussion? Hearing none. Commissioner Kohler,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill,
Yes.
Commissioner Holdren,
Yes.
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Commissioner Jenkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner McCamey,
Yes.
Commissioner Acuff, yes. Thank you all. Good meeting. We are recessed to September 10th, 6 p.m.
Will you entertain a motion to adjourn? No.
We've recessed. It's somebody else's turn.
Sorry. Sorry. One of these other chairmen needs to jump in.
The blonde moment.
I can go ahead and do rules and bylaws.
Please do.
All right. So does anybody need a break or are we good to go?
I'm good.
So I'll call rules and bylaws to order. With the same roll call. Do we need to do it again?
No, just
Okay.
accept, I move we accept the roll call from Health and Welfare.
Do we need to take a vote on it?
Yes.
Okay. Do I hear a second on that?
Second on that.
Second.
Any discussion? Dr. Acuff?
Yes, sir.
Or yes? Oh, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Brad Johnson. Brad, was that a yes?
Yes.
Mike Hill,
Yes.
Ms. Holdren,
Yes.
Ms. Color,
Yes.
Ms. McCamey,
Yes.
Austin.
Yes.
All right. All eyes moving forward. All right. Let me get the agenda pulled up. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? None. Dr. Acuff?
Aye. Oh, yes, sorry.
Brad?
Yes.
Mike? Mike?
I'm muted.
You're muted, Mike.
Oh, hello. Can you hear me, Joe? That would yes.
Yes. All right. So Ginger,
Yes.
Sandra,
Yes.
Robin,
Yes.
Austin.
Yes.
All right. So motion to accept the minutes as presented.
I make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Seeing none. Dr. Acuff?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Ginger?
Yes.
Sandra?
Yes.
Robin?
Yes.
Austin?
Yes.
And I wish I had this list in front of me the other night when you asked me to take roll. All right. So, looking at the agenda here, actually, I haven't got it pulled up. My computer went down. Sorry about that, guys. And I would get a phone call right in the middle of that too.
Randall, the next item is public comments.
All right, I got you. Thank you. It's popping back up now. So no public or any public comments for rules and bylaws? Seeing none, we'll move on. Just one item of new business. I put a reminder on there to make sure everybody sends in their request to, or what standing committee they would like to serve on to the clerk's office. We do that in a September meeting. So I didn't get a chance to talk to them to see how many has been turned in yet, but I figure I'd give a friendly reminder out. So moving on to old business, update on Roll Call Pro. So we have a meeting set up with Anthony Lawrence and Abby, myself, Isaiah, and Mary's office is still up in the air for September the 15th at 3 p.m. It's more of back of the house action that we don't deal with. It's more of what they deal with. So I don't see where you guys would have to come or be on that. So unless you just want to. Any comments or concerns or anything on that? All right, moving on. I put on here the appointment of the reapportionment committee. So we're still a good 6, 7, 8 months away from that. The census won't be, I see here, I looked it up. So the Census Bureau will deliver all their information in December to Congress and the president, and chances of us getting it back before March, I mean, I don't see it coming back before March. That's when it was last time. So like I said, we're still 6 or 7 months out, but I would like to get your guys' input on what this committee should look like. I sent out all the guidelines that I have in my possession in an email just about 10 or 15 minutes ago. There's not a lot concerning how, well, we really don't even have to pick. We just have to vote and turn in something to the full commission. The full commission has to vote on it. But I would, suggest that we pick a group, a committee, and let them go to town and let them do some research and see what the county needs as far as redistricting. So any suggestions, comments? So I think when we talked about this before, we talked about having a member from the planning or from the assessor's office. They both have the same software that could help us out. A representative from the election office, and the mayor or a mayor appointee. And right there, if you add 2 commissioners, that's 5 members. If you want to keep a lean and mean committee. But if you go with, if you go with the rule or with our committee, if our committee decides to take it on, adding the planning representative and the election office representative, we would be looking at 10 people. So it's the pleasure of what you all think. So. You all think it should be smaller, bigger?
It's Mike Hill.
Yes, Mike.
So wouldn't we pull in the election commissioner and perhaps the planning director or their designees as advisors? And I mean, is that a thing? And then we would just handle it as a committee, or is it necessary to appoint a separate unit?
No, it doesn't have to be a separate unit, and I think that's a great idea. I didn't even think about that. So,
Pretty much what we're doing with the broadband issue right here, we're pulling in talent and you know, as needed and adding to our core group.
okay. Well, any other suggestions, comments, concerns? Should we get a representative from the public? I mean, it's like I said, the guidelines on picking this particular group is not a lot. There's not a lot to it.
Chairman, ACUF, First District. The only thing I see that Attorney Harden's still on here. Josh, do you have any wisdom on this particular issue?
I do think it's a separate committee. Of course, it's just a matter of semantics. You can make the Rules and Bylaws Committee the reapportionment committee, if that's what you choose to do, and then add a member if you choose. But all I can say is the last time it was done, it was basically Tracy Harris, election administrator, a gentleman with Ron Taylor's office, and maybe Chris Schuler. I don't know. There was only 3 or 4 folks that I recall were involved at all, and it's just truly up to you all. There's no real parameters to it.
Thank you, sir.
Any other commissioners? Anybody got any comments? I like what Mike said about just making our group the group and adding, or not adding, but having the representatives from the other 2 organizations there with us to help.
Yeah, let me add too. I think there was some assistance from CTAS or somebody last time as well, and it just depends on how you do it. I mean, if it's just going to be a straight, knocking a commissioner off of the existing districts, that's one thing. But if you're going to start redrawing lines, it's going to get very complicated, and that's when you're going to need technical assistance.
Yeah. Josh, I mean, but don't we have to do our due diligence to look at the districts and make sure they're still even within a percentage?
Yes, I mean, I would venture to guess that the numbers are not going to change drastically. We were I think it was a plus or minus 10 was the range that you could be in, and we were at a 2 or so in every district. So, I mean, unless, the population, if anything, went down a little, I don't know that there was that many population shifts. So I would think we would be within the margin to leave it as it is. But if you move any lines, that's when it's going to get hard.
Yeah, it's a 10% standard is what they go by. So do I hear a motion on the floor?
I'll make a motion, Chairman, that whoever is on the Rules and Bylaws Committee for the reapportionment committee with advisors brought in as needed from the mayor's office, the planning department, the election commission, and CTAS.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion on it? All right. Dr. Aco,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Ginger,
Yes.
Sandra,
Yes.
Robin,
And Rob.
she's still on.
Yeah, she's still
Yes.
on.
Sorry.
Austin.
Yes.
All right, all eyes. So I've already reached out to them once, so I'll reach back out. Like I said, we're still 6, 7, 8 months away from getting any information from that, but I feel better knowing that we have the committee set and we can go into it whenever we get the information at our hands. And shout out to Josh there for sending that email out today with all the information as far as the committees and who's on what and the dates and whatnot. So thank you, Josh, for that. If there's nothing else, I'll hear a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Acuff moved.
Bill second.
All in favor by saying yes?
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Take 5.
That sounds like a good idea.
I'll vote for that.
It's 25 minutes. Nobody's gonna jump in. 25 minutes after, at 7:30, be back.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Oh, yeah. Let me go load my gun.
And Bob, I was going to tell you something right quick while we're in break. That suggestion that Austin said about the sending something out with the workbook stuff that they're doing online. Colton, when we're doing his homework at night, I mean, it's just downloaded there. If something pops up and it's there, I mean, their chances are they're going to do it right quick and knock it out of the way.
That's a good idea, Randall.
It really was a good idea. So, and it might be the easiest way that if it doesn't come through that we already have the information from Danny, but I know Colton, I mean, he does his homework every night. So if something's uploaded, we're going to see it. And I'm sure we're not the only ones that do it. So.
Yeah, I hope not. Yeah. Well, I'll reach out to Danny tomorrow and then tell him what we discussed and see what has come back in, and to ask him if that would be a way to get the information if we haven't gotten, as at least 80% of the families, because we really need the data, I think, to be strong. We don't have enough capability.
When Parks and Rec did a survey when we was looking to do our rec plan for the county, like a 5-year plan, and we had to have information to go off on. And I'm pretty sure we got like a 10 or 15% return. And that's about normal, I guess. But if we really hustle and we've got some stuff at our fingertips that we could really, help us out. So hopefully it'll work out for us.
Yeah, well, I'd like to, the community has done well. I really appreciate everybody on our group doing their due diligence and moving it forward. As I said, and Ginger echoed, Crystal Ivy was impressed with as much work as we've done so far. She couldn't believe it. So, that's good, because her grant manager was on the phone as well and heard those comments and where we were. I think that only helps us in the long run when they come to look at, since they're going to be the ones that do the awards, that, this county has really moved ahead, try to touch all their bases, and they've done it in such a way that we didn't have to pull it out of them.
It's true.
So it would be great to have that capability for families and kids. I don't know that we'll put it as an economic development piece, but we should at least mention it because she mentioned it on the call today, that in this environment, everybody's working at home, and it's just really difficult. And I've noticed, I'm not being critical of Patty, would be, but I've noticed her internet speed at home must be fairly slow, because she comes and goes on my screen.
Absolutely. My brother lives in Pogie and way up there, and he has access to, not cable by no means, but it's I wouldn't call it high speed at all. But I talked to him, and I'm sure he could help spread the word. And once word gets out about it, and if it's going to help everybody, small communities will pull together, hopefully, and help us out.
Well, I think we're fortunate and blessed that the county schools already have a backbone. That Crystal said that's a unique way of approaching this problem. And I just got a text message from Patrick McGee at Education Networks of America. I'd sent him a text earlier today, and he said, "Bob, I'm sorry, I just now saw this. Can you talk now?" And I said, "No, we're talking about it on health and welfare." And he said, "Call me first thing in the morning." So hopefully he's had a chance to talk with his executive team and see where they are in this. Because I think it would be win-win if they would let SkyBest, if that's who our partner is going to be, use the backbone that they have, and us be successful in getting dollars from the state first, and then maybe later following Irwin Utilities' example of USDA or ARC or whoever for additional funding to lengthen that network. Just see so many potentials here, not only for our kids, but also entrepreneurs who want to move to our community, but yet want to work remotely. I know Mike Hill's wife, they have to shut everything down in their house when she has to upload or download stuff at her position, Eastman Chemical, when she's working at home. So it does have a definite negative impact, I think, on our county.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It is definitely economic development.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be the reason somebody moves here or not moves here. If they can't work from home, well, then they can't do it. So
yeah.
Well, yippee-ki-yay, it's that our, whichever one, law enforcement or building grounds, let's get going.
Well, law enforcement's MIA, and Gary Bailey's cousin's not on here. There he is. Now he's back on. He's gonna be mad at me now. Come on, somebody pick up the horn there and let's move forward.
But there's no law enforcement. James, are you going to do anything tonight?
Who is this? I just heard some old hateful feller on the other end of the line.
Well, wake up, son. You're getting paid.
Yeah, if you call it that.
More than you're worth. Now, don't get mad.
We're not quit looking in the mirror there, Brad. I'm telling yourself that. So we're going to call together the building and grounds. I'm going to turn this meeting over to Vice Chair Ginger Holdren. I am not able to go down the list. I've been at work and driving, and so she's going to run the meeting and everything we touch on. If anybody's got any questions, I'm here to answer the questions and go over it, but she's going to run the agenda.
Okay. So the first thing is to approve the agenda. Have y'all had a chance to look at it?
Motion to approve is accepted.
Acuff seconds.
Okay, thank you very much. So motion to approve the agenda by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Acuff. We'll do a roll call vote. So Commissioner Johnson?
Vice Chair Holdren, I'm sorry in the middle of this, but you're going to have to get close to the mic because it's getting to where we can't even hear you.
Okay, I'll be louder.
Okay.
Will you vote to approve the agenda, sir?
Yes, sorry.
Okay. Acuff?
Yes.
Kohler?
Yes.
Jenkins? Hill?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Jenkins. Commissioner Hill?
Yes.
Commissioner McCamey?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
And Commissioner Holdren? Yes. Okay, next is the approval of the August meeting minutes.
Acuff, so moved.
Second, Hill.
Okay, thank you. So this time it was Acuff with the motion and Hill with the second.
Yes, ma'am.
So we are now voting to approve the August minutes. Johnson?
Yes.
Acuff?
Yes.
Kohler?
Yes.
Jenkins?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
McCamey?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Holdren? Yes. Okay, next on the agenda is public comments. Do we have any public comments? Okay, we will move on to new business. And I believe I am going to ask the mayor to talk about paving at the planning department. Mayor, are you still with us?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
I'm here. I just thought it would be a good time to get that paved over there because I've been watching people cross the street over here that parks over next to the funeral home over here. I've seen 2 or 3 almost get run over because they're walking out between cars and stuff to go to the planning. I thought if we paved that behind there and behind the planning, behind the probation, around we pave all that. It would look a lot better, number one. Plus, then the planning could park behind there, and that would leave the people that had business there could park in the front, and they wouldn't have to cross the street. And I got with Superintendent Coball, and this is just strictly, materials. With that, no labor, because the county will be doing it. And I thought that's pretty good, 20,228. And that would make it look a whole lot better over there too. Plus, he's going to work on the drainage. There's water stands over there now. The drain stopped up. He's going to take care of all the drainage and all that. Quite a bit of grade work they're going to have to do. So I thought that's a pretty good price if you guys will approve that.
Madam Vice Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Johnson.
I so moved that we approve the paving and the drainage system rework around the planning department property in the amount of $20,228 to come out of the capital improvement funds.
Commissioner Johnson,
Steve?
if you would take a friendly amendment of that and use some of our, with a motion to take this out of the COVID funds instead of using our capital improvement funds, since that COVID money has to be spent by a certain date.
Commissioner Holdren, do we have to justify the COVID money in any manner?
Yes, we do. We have to document that and turn it into Brad, and it has to be specific COVID related items such as disinfectants, cleaners, installing sneeze guards on counters, and things of that nature, direct link expenses to COVID.
Somehow I don't think that matches the requirement, Mr. James.
I'm not talking about
You're talking about the CARES Act.
I'm talking about the million that's unrestricted. It still has to be spent by certain dates, what Brad told me.
Isn't that the CARES grant, CARES, Mayor?
Yeah.
No, that's the first one, the 1.1, right, Mr. James?
Yeah. And I believe that was part of the CARES Act also, I believe, wasn't it?
Well, the CARES is 854,000 or 852,000.
It's different pieces of the same act. It's just money's given under different allocations, different subs. I think is what they done with them. Because 1.5 million was the first, and then 800 and some thousand is the second. They waived the restrictions on the first, so that counties could utilize that money, but there still is restrictions on the second monies, the 800,000.
Okay.
Okay, so for clarification, James, you are asking for a friendly amendment to spend out of the first 1.5 million that has no restrictions.
Correct.
Commissioner Johnson, will you accept that as a friendly amendment?
Yes, ma'am, I will.
Okay, do we have a second?
Acuff, I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Johnson and a second by Commissioner Acuff to approve the spending of $20,228 to do grade work and paving at the planning department area for the safety of our citizens. So now we will do a roll call vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Acuff?
Yes.
Commissioner Culler?
Yes.
Commissioner Jenkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Hill?
Yes.
Commissioner McCamey?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Holdren? Yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry, I'm trying to get back to my place. Okay. Any other new business before we move into old? Okay, on the agenda, the first item under old business is a courthouse security update. Anybody have any information on that to share?
Mr. Chairman, Mrs. Chairwoman,
Yes, Mayor.
we're supposed to have a meeting in the morning, around 9 o'clock, a project, whatever the project meeting, get an update on what's going on. The beating and banging slowed down a whole lot, so I think they got the holes made because I didn't hear as much fussing today, but I think they're moving on pretty good. I think they got what they need to tear out. I think they're ready to start building back now. But I will know more tomorrow. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's good.
That's on the courthouse security contract.
Yes.
Okay, does anybody else have any comments or questions on courthouse security? Okay, Mayor, while you're talking, we'll move on to item B, which is the Sluter property update.
Sluter, okay, we've got, we've been battling the rain to finish up. Got the septic system in, water lines in. About one more day, we'll have the electricity completed and the water hooked up. We got the meter set for the water. So hopefully within the next week or two, we'll have water and lights ready to go. Then we can start working on the interior of the building.
Very good. Moving on. Thank you, Mayor. Next is an update on the ADA plan. And I don't believe I see Gary Smith on here tonight, so I'll speak and let
He's
you all
here.
know.
I'm here. He's here with me.
You're here. Hi. Since they're having to hear me talk so much anyway, Mr. Smith, why don't you go ahead and share with them what you and I accomplished that morning?
Yes, ma'am. Glad to do so. Ms. Holder and I met a couple of weeks ago, and we went through a lot of the items on the deficiencies list that the company provided us. And what we looked at were several different items that we could do that would have a larger impact than necessarily some of the easier things to do. And just for example, we went through and we talked about potentially removing one of the urinals in the restrooms for the men's room and widening the stall so that it meets the ADA requirements. We also talked about switching out the door handles, which we've discussed before. The women's restroom, we would have to do basically the same thing, make the stalls wider down there. And then we also talked about possibly removing a few of the seats in the courtrooms to make them wheelchair accessible for folks who are coming to court. So with that, I will entertain any questions.
Director Smith, Brad Johnson.
Yes, sir.
Initially, where you were recommending removing urinals in, of course, I know it's not the women's room, not unless they've changed their action since I was around, but those things were put in there by design under the requirement of the amount of people that uses the building facility. Are we satisfying one requirement and failing another one?
Well, that I don't know, but I can tell you this, and you know, as far as like in the men's room, if one person's using that urinal, and very few people will come up to the second one. They will either wait or go in one of the stalls.
So I know, but a design requirement from federal, state, and AIA, they require so many urinals by depending on what the traffic of the building and the businesses are in there.
Well, that's something we will have to do a little more exploration on. But we were just trying to look at ways that we could do it without having to make major modifications to the structure of the building.
So Commissioner Johnson, who do we check with about that? Is that an architect question?
Yes, it is. It would be, yeah, an architectural or a mechanical engineer in design, particularly, you know, bathrooms and items like that for public use. There is a guideline, a minimum standard guideline for any kind of business, for design purposes. Health department has a part of it that determines these numbers based on, the classification of the business or whether it's government. So many employees, board so many stalls, board so many urinals, based on male, female, based on handicap, accessibility, ADA. So if you satisfy the ADA, I just want to make sure we're not violating one of the other requirements, AIA requirements.
We'll check into that, Commissioner Johnson.
All right, it's just a thought.
Absolutely. We don't want to eliminate one problem and create another.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the direction that we were trying to move, is to have the most impact for the least amount of money, especially starting out. And then we'll research that question and bring it back again next month and chat more about it.
Thank you, Director Smith. And before we leave that subject, I would just ask if there's input on the other two things he and I discussed. How do you all feel about the door handle switch? That's something that's fairly easy to do and not too expensive.
Yeah, they're roughly about $100 a door, give or take a little bit.
Ms. Chairwoman,
Yes, sir.
from the fire aspect of it, Mr. Johnson probably knows also, that would probably come under, the fire marshal will probably, I think they're going to start, that's coming under the requirements to have the handles where you, instead of the round ones, you're going to have the handles. If we don't do that, we'll be probably forced to do that soon. So I think it's a good move.
I think too, Mayor, just to add to that, Madam Chairwoman, that also comes under the new regulations of the NFPA, that they have adopted them, which go along with the ADA, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and all the other letters too.
Don't forget OSHA. We got to put OSHA in there somewhere.
Oh, they'll get in your pocket. Just let somebody get hurt.
Yeah.
Okay, and then just to go into a little more detail, he and I discussed taking out possibly at least one row of chairs in the back of each of the courtrooms over there in the building that Miss Woodby's in, to allow for wheelchairs to be placed in the back of the room so that they don't have to roll all the way to the front or anything like that. It would be the easiest place for them to stop a wheelchair, and we wouldn't lose very many seats if we only take out half of a back row. So that's kind of what he and I were discussing and thinking. Any input on that thought?
I think it's an excellent idea.
Yeah.
Okay, well, as he stated, since we have possibly made one error, we will look into that and bring it back to the committee next month. And possibly at that time, we can have a motion to move forward. And also, he and I did consider cost, and we picked things that we think will spend the amount of money that is budgeted. But of course, we won't know that for sure until we put some things out for proposal. But we were trying to spend the total amount that's budgeted for the coming year. Any other comments on that?
I had a quick question, a follow-up question about taking the rows of chairs out. So you said one row in each courtroom?
Yes.
One
so
floor?
way down the middle of the courtroom, we would just be talking about taking away one of those in the back, not both.
Okay, but so what is that, like 10 seats? Or are you just looking to take out like 2 or 3 seats, enough room for one wheelchair? Because I know, I mean, just from my experience of a few traffic tickets that I've got, that courtroom is pretty well packed. So taking out one whole roll, I mean, I don't know, you guys did the research on it. I just wanted to ask a quick question about it.
Well, I can answer. Some of the discussion that we had was about the fact that we think those chairs are connected to each other and we were not sure they can be separated. If we discover, Commissioner Jenkins, that we could take 2 or 3 or however many without taking the whole row, we would certainly do that, because you're right, it is crowded under normal conditions, not under COVID conditions.
Chairman Holdren,
Yes.
those chairs are connected. We just had those refurbished when the new judges went in, which was very costly. Those are reupholstered and refurbished instead of replacing those. So each row that we did have refurbished and reupholstered was quite costly. So just to let you know on that end there too.
Madam Chairwoman, Brad Johnson.
Yes, sir.
Again, another thing we have to be careful about when you remove a row, the required space for the movement of a wheelchair. Once you get one in, there still has to be room behind it. It takes more room to turn that wheelchair, get in and out, backing up and going forward. So you may, the way it's set up now, if I remember right in the courtrooms, the seating area, you have an aisleway to the rear that goes around the wall. That's still the same, isn't it, Ms. Woodby? So you still have to maintain access around that wall, whether a wheelchair is in there or not, because of the NFPA, the fire requirements for the exit in case of a hazard, whatever it is. And I just for the space from the back of a row in front of it would not give you, I don't think it gives you enough room to where you can get a wheelchair in and out and turn if there's more than one. That's another thing, like the doorknobs and everything else, that's going to have to be researched to see what the design requirements are by the AIA and NFPA and ADA and EIEIO and all the other crowd.
Also, depending on where the audience is sitting in the rows, if they're in the middle and they exit, they would exit the side and have to go around the back. Also, the bailiffs circulate the courtroom. They walk the courtroom around the backs of the rows. So they would have to have access if something happened to be able to get out of those back rows where a wheelchair may be sitting.
Okay, so I have a follow-up question. Commissioner Woodby or anybody that can answer it. Is it possible for us to move the rows forward so that there's less space between where the judge is and where the attorneys sit? Can that space be shortened? Is my question making sense?
Yeah, I don't see how, because then you have the banisters that also separate the judge from the audience that would have to be moved also. And the chairs are screwed into the floor too, because they're one row. They're those old metal chairs. They used to be orange at one time. that tells you how old, but they're also screwed into the floors.
And I'll add into that if I will. It's Isaiah Grindstaff. I think that from the security standpoint, you'd really have to look at that, because you're pushing everybody forward. You're decreasing the amount of space between the audience and the judge and the defendants. So I don't know that would be a good fit either. And you would still have to maintain a walkway between those banisters that Commissioner Woodby's talking about and the seating as well. So you're shifting everything down, but you're still going to have to maintain those ratios. You might free up just a little bit of space in the back, but I don't know that it would be gaining anything to make a difference.
Okay, then Director Smith, you and I've got a lot of work to do.
Absolutely.
Knock a wall out.
Yeah. So what my fear is if we keep going after cheap, easy fixes, we're going to run out of those, and not too many years from now. And then we're gonna have nothing left but the expensive stuff. So we, you know, as a commission, we've got to be thinking about that. Right now, we're only budgeted, what, 15,000 a year to make these changes? Is that right?
Yes, they voted 15,000.
Right. So, you know, if he and I can't come up with anything that we can do fairly cheaply, and just keep in mind, in the budget process next year, we might have to ask for more than 15,000 to do a more expensive fix.
Commissioner Holdren,
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Culler.
There's a possibility that you can look at a plan if we don't have to take out the entire row. You might take a couple of seats from each side, second row up. That would still give them the area in the back to walk through, and you'd be able to put at least 4 wheelchairs, 2, 3 or 4 wheelchairs in. You might take a look at that.
We will. Thank you. Anything else from anybody on that topic?
Commissioner Holdren.
Yes.
Quick question. I know that when we first started discussing the $1.5 million roughly that we were receiving from the state, once those monies became freed up to where we didn't have to use them for COVID-related expenses or only COVID-related expenses, there was some discussion in budget when we were developing the budget for this year about using a portion of those funds for ADA. I want to say $50,000 or something like that off the top to be utilized for ADA. Are you all aware of that conversation that was had? I don't know that anything else has been brought up about it since then, but that was something that Brad Burke, Finance Director Burke, had mentioned several times that he felt that we really needed to do in reserving those monies.
I was not aware of that conversation. Were you, Director Smith?
No, ma'am.
Well, budget committee members, if you want to bring that back up next week and let he and I know what you all decide, if anything, then the next time he and I meet, we'll know if we're still working off of the 15,000 number or a different number.
Chairwoman Holdren.
Yes, Commissioner James.
If I might, to the budget committee, make some, I'll try to chime in, but in case I don't, if you don't care to check with Brad, because like I said, I think these monies are earmarked that they have to be spent by a certain time. So since we do have such a large agenda we have to complete to comply, maybe we might spend a little more than the 50 this time. So it'll catch us up for the next several years in case we have a year that we can't spend as quite as much. That'd be my only thoughts about it. So, but that's it.
Okay, well, we'll take our cue from the budget committee and go from there.
And before you go, I want to thank Ms. Holdren for coming out and working with me on this. This is something we've been trying to do for some time to get people from the Buildings and Grounds to come work on it. So I greatly appreciate your time and the effort that you put in. And hey, we'll get this thing done. But it's good that we have all these minds looking at it so that, like I said, we don't create more problems than we resolve. So appreciate everybody's time. Thank you.
Yeah, because if you leave it up to me, I'm going to probably create more than I resolve. So I am also grateful for Director Smith being prepared that morning and allowing us to work on that. So next on the agenda is a discussion about space for the archives. Commissioner James, you just feel free to pop in there anytime.
Okay, well, I mean, it's just kind of part of the old business. It's just been left on the agenda hanging out there. So everybody, if not, let me know about receiving the things from the architects. And we'll try to get that on the agenda next month as to who they think we ought to decide for the professional services.
I'm sorry, I'm a little bit lost. Architect for what?
For the Great Lakes, because that was part of the original discussion is whether we was going to put it up there or not, and they was going to draw it in. Otherwise, at the current time, we have no location for it.
So
Okay.
wouldn't it, Madam Chairwoman, Brad
Yeah.
Johnson,
Yes.
to James and the committee, wouldn't it be more logical to get your AE selected? Then you could be using them not only for the workforce development, but for the corrections on the ADA as advisement, and also for sketching the estimates and so forth. And the same thing with this archive. There is so many tentacles that is related that we need the architect on board. So we're now, what, 120 days, 4 months, 5 months past, and nothing has been done. We're trying to lease, no floor plans. We have no idea at all where anybody's at up there on paper to where the mayor is more or less on the outside. I doubt if he has a floor plan that shows what space he has available, what space is leased, anything else related to aid him or anybody else that takes that on up there. And it's just dormant. And we're getting older, and that building is too. Get the AE selected and let's get them to work. We have the funds.
Okay. Is that, Commissioner James, is that something that will be accomplished this month?
Yeah, that's something that we're going to discuss next month. That should have been what was forwarded around for everybody to look at if they didn't get it.
I didn't get it at all, James.
But I'll resend everything tomorrow. I've been waiting on some of the architects to send in their digital copies. Some people turned in hard copies, which we can't pass around right now. And then some of them only sent in one hard copy, which has to stay on file in the finance department. So we was waiting to get digital copies from some of the architects.
What was required on the RFP?
We just required a proposal. We didn't select whether it was digital or hardback. Some had opted and done digital also, but some did not, which, when we first started discussing this, we wasn't having this kind of issue we are now, but it is what it is. So, but we'll send around their proposals, let everybody pick. We only had 3 from the area. The other 2 was out of the area. I believe one was Knoxville and one was Nashville, or Knoxville and Asheville. And one was remind me of the name, Commissioner Johnson. I had told you the name of them in Johnson City.
You had Shaws and Shanks.
Shaws and Shanks. And I will add that they were the only ones that submitted a proposal that actually attended to the opening.
Then I can say, having them on contract in my federal job, they're a premium firm as far as architects and engineers are concerned. The other one was the one that purchased, let's see, what's the one that Beeson Luskin Street?
Yeah.
That was the other one, wasn't it?
That was one of them. One was Loose Designs. One was the Lytton. I think it's Lytton now.
Kingsport.
Yeah. No, the one out of Kingsport was
KLH.
the GR. Let's see. GRC is the construction side. So what is the architect?
EIEO.
Well, Commissioner Johnson, who I'm talking about, but they own part of the GRC construction company. They submitted one, but like I said, the Shaw and Shanks was the only one that attended, and he had given us some kind of report of what all they done. I believe he told me that they had designed the tech school beside of it there, and everybody I'd kind of done a little research on them, had very high rapport about them.
Yeah, they presently are the architects of choice by the city of Johnson City and their school board on their school construction that's coming up and ongoing. I think it was 2 architectural firms that was chosen, and it was split up between the 2, and Shaws and Shanks was one of them. They done multi-million-dollar designs and projects for me for the Department of Veteran Affairs, which they were a breath of fresh air to use, and they were very, very, very accurate in all of their designs, and you always judge that by, I mean, and James can testify to that, how many you change orders and all your problems you got on the project side.
Oh yeah, change orders is where they make the money anyways.
Yeah.
But I'll send around all the information, let everybody look, and try to get one selected this next month. Or, if nobody has any argumentative about it, I can pass the mayor's office and let them try to, since it's a professional service, it's nothing that has to be voted on or approved. And we could move forward with the Shaws and Shanks, or we can take a little more gander into them. Like I said, there was the only architects that submitted. It was local from the area, and I'm a firm believer in using local companies if possible. So hopefully a little bit of the tax dollars will come back to the area. But Lytton BLS out of Johnson City, I wasn't as pressed with them. They were the ones that was contacted to do the boiler evaluation, and it took quite some time to be able to get that report back. So I don't know how expedient they would be on doing this. So, and I know our lady that does our POs, she had to contact the gentleman over multiple times.
Chairman, Commissioner Hill.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Hill.
I just, I had a conversation with my friend Danny Ward, who's on the school board. I did inform him that this meeting was tonight, but I think he had scheduling conflicts, as did the superintendent. They have some interest in some portion of the Northeast State Building up there. And they were hoping to come before us and make some sort of pitch. So maybe we should, it might be prudent to reach out and see if we could put them on for next month.
Commissioner Holdren, do you want to answer that, or do you want me to?
Since you talked to Dr. McAbee, go ahead, Commissioner James.
Yeah, I believe it wouldn't be a bad idea to put them on there. We can kind of look at their stuff and evaluate, see what the best use is. I had actually met with Dr. McAfee up there and showed him the facility to see if the school had any interest in it. And he was very excited about quite a bit of several things that he thought they could do with that facility. And my main thing was I asked him, and I had talked to Danny Ward and asked him to try to get us something together to review and see, how it would, what we could do to help them. I mean, anything I feel that we can use to educate our students with is first and foremost priority over anything. And I know one thing that Dr. McAfee had made a mention about was maybe even a centralized vocational school up there. I think he says we're losing a lot of vocational students because it's taking so much time that they don't want to run to 2 or 3 different schools to try to get what they're wanting in. But that's what they had talked about. But, if it's something, what we was talking about with the architects and stuff, we can kind of pick from that and then kind of give them a little more guidance on what they're wanting to do. We don't really have a preliminary anything from them yet, and a dollar figure. They won't give us that till we get a little more into it. But yeah, Commissioner Hill, I agree. We need to put them on next month and see if we can schedule around getting them in.
Well, we just need to look at everything, every possible use, especially if we haven't drawn plans yet. Depending on what direction is eventually determined, that would play into whatever the AE firm would design for the property there.
I completely agree and think we need to do that. you know, the only thing I echoing a little bit on what Commissioner Johnson's talking about, if y'all want to kind of discuss a little more on who to pick for an AE firm, we may let them be able to get together with Commissioner Holdren and Director Smith and see if we can't start working on a little bit of this ADA, become more ADA compliant too. So we maybe can get some draw schematics and help them in figuring out what we need to do. But yeah, we'll work with them in all situations.
All right, so just to clarify, are you gentlemen saying that we should let the schools present their proposal before we ask the AE firm to begin work on the Workforce Development Center?
Well, we're going to have to kind of select who we want to go with, and then, you know, we'll give them a feel, I think, for what we're wanting. You know, and then once we get the schools on board of what they're wanting, I think we can maybe add that in there and try to get it situated out. When we was up there, McAfee had mentioned that the back building that Northeast State currently occupies, that he believed that the excess that was left over would be more than sufficient to house the centralized vocational school for what they offer. Of course, he did seemed very interested in maybe expanding that and adding more, maybe more as time goes. Of course, I can't speak for exactly what they plan on doing. So, but you know, it's whatever the committee wants to do. If they want to hold off on doing all that until we can meet with the school next month and decide if they've got a game plan yet is what they're wanting to do, or, you know, if it's going to take them several months to get something in place.
Well, here's the thing. They would probably do their own renovation and use their own AE firm, and it might take a burden off the county's back as far as the amount of money that we're going to spend refurbing that facility if another entity wants to refurb their piece. And so I think it'd be prudent to hear them out and see what their interest level is, and if we even need to include them in a drawing and a set of schematics or whatever.
Yeah. Well, and I think that would be a good thing to hear out. And, you know, Mike, I mean, it'd be great if they'll be able to do their with their own architect and everything, and take that burden off of us. But, you know, as I'm sure as anybody else probably on the committee would be, if anything comes down to our kids and our schools, you know, I feel like whatever we got to do at a county to help benefit them. But I think we can hear them next month if that's what y'all want to do. Commissioner Johnson, you've been awful quiet. Everybody else has been chiming in here, and I ain't heard nothing yet.
Well, it's not time. It's a matter of priorities, the chicken or the egg. Having the AE on board, which I think I'm going to make a motion to thing, is the biggest single item to help everybody, for prospective clients, for us as a building and grounds, for the mayor as the head elected official of this county and the highest contact point, for discussion, for viewing there on paper, would eliminate the biggest majority of it. Regardless, it tells you what your occupation is, what your voids are. He is there, or that firm would be there for all your other projects, small projects like Chairwoman and Director Smith would mention, all into one to keep them employed. To hear a client tell us what they want, what are you going to put it on? They can give you a description what they need, but if they want 500 feet, you don't have anything to look to see whether it fit, where it could go, what it's in relation to. We've got Northeast State, if I'm not mistaken, Mayor, Northeast State was wanting some space too. And what did you have to show them what was available other than go walk them? Have you got anything to reference, like a floor plan, a brochure to where you can hand the client?
we have a drawing of the second building. We have it.
On the second building.
The state came in and made them do that, but now the first, no.
No, but I mean, if you had all your property, right now, you're the representative more than likely for the county. The people contact that you have to go up there and represent us. Because we don't have an agent up there, it's leases. And I think that if we have the preliminary, it all has to be, it can even be a single line layout that would give both the committee, everybody, a document that they can work from, and it be one document to all, plus getting it ready for such projects such as the ADA. And then for the archives has got an SAR to use to pay for that. And it's something that that we need to get on. So, Madam Chair, I think if I would, I have a motion I can make.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Commissioner
Madam Chair,
Johnson.
I'll make a motion that we go ahead and make contact with Shaws and Shank, AE firm in Johnson City, for their AIA contract to be the architect of choice for our county for the workforce development and other projects around it.
I second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion to choose Shaws and Shanks as our AE firm for the Workforce Development Center and other projects currently underway. And motion was made by Johnson, seconded by James. Is there any discussion?
Was that statement projects surrounding that particular area?
Well, no, any of the project, they're not having to bid like a regular contractor does. We can go direct to them and contract with them to do our AE services. So that leaves them open also for such things like advisory or estimating purposes or design purposes, such as the ADA at the courtrooms or in our courthouse, the old courthouse, any other projects that we want to assign them. If we're unhappy with them, you can always go get another one.
Thank you. Any other questions? Comments? Okay, then I guess we will vote. Does anyone not understand what you're voting on right now? Okay, Johnson,
Yes.
Acuff,
Yes.
Kohler,
Yes.
Jenkins,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
McCamey,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Holden, yes. Okay, so that's a unanimous decision. So whose responsibility is it to contact them? Does Bert do that or James or?
I'll reach out to them tomorrow and let them know, and I will get them the mayor's contact information and let him start communicating with them on a daily basis.
Woo-hoo. There's just something else to do, Mayor.
A daily basis. Thanks a lot.
As they feel is necessary.
Okay, that sounds better. Yeah.
Okay, thank you all very much. The next thing on the agenda is a building and grounds supervisory position. Chairman James tasked me with writing. Sorry, he tasked me a week or two ago with coming up with a job description for that position, and I have researched it, but I did not get anything put onto one piece of paper. Right now, I've almost got a complete document. It was not ready in time to send out for this meeting. I apologize to the committee. Unless somebody else has got something they'd like us to look at and try to roll with tonight a little bit, I will send out what I'm working on tomorrow. The things that I'm finding that I think most closely fit with what we're looking for are being referred to as a facilities maintenance supervisor And that includes everything from planning to making things a priority, supervising others, communicating with AE firms and looking over building and remodeling projects. They also are in charge of cleaning, maintenance, preventative maintenance, grounds. You know, it would be a very all-encompassing kind of position is what I'm looking at. And if I'm going in the wrong direction, you all tell me now so I can change directions.
Madam Chairwoman, I think you're right on the button.
Yep.
You just have, I know you probably have it in that scope, is they have to have more than a general knowledge. I don't know how you get a good definition, general knowledge of all the disciplines of construction, all your mechanicals, your electrical, your plumbing, structural, things like that. You have to have knowledge of that to even know what you're doing, but it has to be mentioned in there. But that's a good base of what you have, what you've read there.
Madam Chairwoman,
Yes, sir.
I think it's great. You've got a good plan there. I think it's good. We need that, but I've got a man already that exceeds all that. I mean, I'm kind of partial to him, but he's proven himself already. But you know, I still think we need all the guidelines and stuff. But he's a top-notch guy. I've got him whenever we're ready to go to work. Just thought I'd throw that in there.
I hear you, Mayor, and I also hear positive comments made from other county employees about the person I believe you speak of. I'm just trying to stay very neutral right now and prepare the document.
Yes.
And then we can see that he checks all the boxes. And it'll be further evidence that he's the right person for the job. But I wanted to look at it from a very neutral standpoint without having anybody in mind.
Right.
You know, think, what do we need? What do we want this person to be in charge of? And then go from there and make sure that this person does fit that bill. But I hear what you're saying. I think all of the committee hears what you're saying. And I know a lot of county employees would be in agreement with what you're thinking. So
we can wait to go. We can wait a while because I think you're headed in a great direction, but I just wanted to throw that in there because he proves himself every day. I mean, so I just wanted to throw that in there.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Madam Chairwoman, one other thing just keep in mind too, and our county attorney may have to chime in. If we do a promotion inside our government, we don't have to go outside and advertise. See what I'm saying? I mean, if there's nobody on our staff or as our employees can qualify, you still have to write your requirements as their qualification-based guideline. But in case that we don't have somebody make it, then we can go outside and advertise for that position. Otherwise, we can negotiate with inside our own employees in our government. I'd like to have our county attorney to say, I think that's right. I'm not sure. That would help the process a whole lot quicker.
Well, I would at least suggest that there's an opportunity for others to apply. Usually, even within an employer's, within a company or within the school system or whatever. I mean, if there's an opening, it's at least posted to see if there's any interested individuals. Because you may think you have a great individual, but there might be somebody better. So I wouldn't. I don't think you have to leave it open for a month or anything, but I would at least see if there's any interest and then compare who you got.
I agree. That was my intent, Mr. Harden, is that it be open to our government or our employees first for a set amount of days. I didn't put it in those words, but that's the normal practice. And then to make sure like you said, they may be somebody here that's more qualified. It's the little quiet mouse in the corner that hadn't said anything yet. So, but still, you leave it open and then you have a close date, see what applications you got and go from there.
So are we on the right track, Attorney Harden?
I didn't catch that. I'm sorry.
I said, are we on the right track, Attorney Harden?
Oh yeah. I think you're on the right track. The first step is the job description, and that's what you're working on. And then see who fits the bill, and you can pick the best candidate. I mean, that's the way any job search goes.
Who makes that decision, Attorney?
Well, generally, I mean, you're hiring a new employee. I don't know that technically the maintenance and those things are under the mayor's office right now. If the county is creating a new position, then we need to bring that before the full county commission. And if that is still under your umbrella as buildings and grounds manager, then that's fine. I mean, they're going to have some supervisor. And it's usually not the best idea to have a once a month supervisor meeting. You need somebody who's there to answer to and supervise daily.
I can talk with him, I guess, when I talk to these architects every day, right?
You talk to one before lunch and one after lunch every day.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to see who was, unless Bob Vila applies, I don't know what we're going to do here. Unless let's have somebody a lot better. Okay. Thank you.
So I have a question, Attorney Harden. So does that mean that it's not an option for this new employee to be under the supervision of the Building and Grounds Committee? That's not an option?
Well, could be. I mean, my thought is, as with the projects that we need project management for, when you've got a committee that meets once a month, it's hard to be effective at supervising much of anything. I mean, you've got to have somebody, you got to have boots on the ground, so to speak. You got to have somebody there to supervise the employee and to answer questions or make calls if they need to be made. And if you're waiting on a once a month meeting, that's hard to do.
I guess I was looking at it kind of like the landfill, because our director of the landfill has free reign to hire and fire and make decisions of what's a priority today and all that. He doesn't have to come before the committee and ask all those kinds of questions. I guess that's what I was thinking.
Well, yeah, and that could be. I mean, he's essentially the department manager. If that's what you got in mind for this position, I mean, he would, essentially be the manager of the maintenance department or whatever it is you're going to call it. So yeah, I mean, if he's that person, then yeah, he could hire and fire employees and all kinds of things. It just depends on how much power is given to him. So I don't know the extent of the role you're looking for, but certainly if it's more of a managerial role over that department, if there is a department like that created, then yeah, you're right, that could work.
Well, that's what I was thinking, and that's why I need this committee's input tonight, because if that's not the direction this committee wants to go in, I need to change the description that I'm writing, because I was looking at it as a managerial position where he would have, or she, a lot of power to make those kinds of decisions on what do we do today, and what safety standards are we not meeting, and what has not been checked recently. They would just have a lot of control over that kind of stuff.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Having served on the landfill committee for a few years, the landfill committee or the landfill director reporting to the committee is kind of a special circumstance. As I understand it, back during the years where Joel Street was chair of the landfill committee, they got a private act to take the landfill director's position out from under the supervisory oversight of the county mayor and put that with the committee, placed it with the committee. It used to, that role used to report to the mayor's office, if I'm not mistaken.
You're correct. You are correct.
Well, I'm gonna chime in here, Chairwoman. Holdren, if you don't care. I mean, I kind of in some essence agree here with the chairwoman. I don't know what the point is of creating a supervisor position if you're just going to cut the supervisor off at the knees and say, here, you get to answer somebody else before you do anything. So, supervisor's a supervisor, and if you're going to hire them, they need to be tasked with leading the department. So, if we're gonna have to hire somebody else got to hold their hands every day, then we don't need nobody to hire it anyways.
Madam Chairwoman,
Yes.
I think change of words from the entitlement away from supervisor as to a director, because once if that person that we have in mind that does qualify above all else and is given the opportunity, that means there's going to be a vacancy there to where a craftsman more likely would be hired. So you would have a minimum of 3, and you'll probably have more than that. That's what the aspirations of the commission has been for some time in conversation. Then that would qualify for the director. That director, the same way that we operate under the financial management, that you have a director of that service, and that director answers to the committee.
Yeah, I mean, Chairwoman Holdren, and my goals and intentions here, I think that, that whoever we hire, if we make this a position, we need to form it as a position that, we can expand it and grow it, and they answer back to the committee, that it's something that, they can take on some of the maintenance, and we try to build a department where we are able to get people underneath that director that eventually saves the county money. So every time our HVAC tears up, we're not having to call climate controllers and pay $100 service charge and $100 an hour or something. We've got people underneath this person that can run our county without us having to reach outside of every time, to where we can try to save the county some money.
Chairwoman Holdren, Isaiah Groundstaff.
Yes, sir.
Question for the county attorney. I guess we referenced the landfill, and Commissioner Hill brought that up, and how that was created. Statutorily, the sheriff is over, in this case, the building and grounds of a courthouse and the courthouse buildings of that nature. And through an agreement under the previous sheriff and the previous mayor, the mayor was kind of turned over that courthouse, the courthouse side where that is, the courthouse side that 900 East Elk Avenue on the one side, and the grounds thereof. How does that work statutorily with creating a new department and giving them those authorities of?
Well, and I know what you're talking about, and I've looked at that before, and I don't think the sheriff has any interest in supervising the janitors or mowing the yard or anything. I think that was intended as he's in charge of the security of the courthouse, of course, and the commission, as the governing body of the county, is in control of the maintenance of the grounds. That's what Buildings and Grounds Committee is for, to recommend actions for approval by the full commission. But historically, the mayor is the day-to-day in charge person of the maintenance, as far as managing the custodians and repairs and things that need to be done at the courthouse. And I'm sure the sheriff probably handles most of that over at that building. But I think the county commission has the authority to delegate the actual maintenance of the buildings to the mayor or to a maintenance supervisor if they pick one. I mean, I think that's within the statute. I mean, essentially the mayor is the day-to-day person, but he's acting at the pleasure of the commission. I mean, the full county commission is the legislative body of this county, and the only one that has authority to act independently has to be given that authority by the county commission. The statutory duties of the sheriff is the security of the courthouse and jail.
I would gladly give it back to the sheriff, gladly.
Well, I think you set it up properly and get it out of your hands, Mr. Mayor, because, we just come out of that trauma on the prior administration. And that is to, if it's under the building and grounds and under the chair to a director, that keeps that from happening. Because look what a dang mess it was prior to where we're sitting right now. And I don't want to return to there. You know, man comes in like Einstein, they don't have qualifications of a first grader, and look what a mess. Got pretty rose bushes, but that's all.
And Madam Chair, with that, I just want to add, I think that this is something that's been needed for a long time. I think that we have different pieces that are needed of this. I think we'll see ourselves maybe adding a couple of different departments over the next little bit. And my only recommendation or statement is if you haven't, if you're looking for some more material or to strengthen what roles that individual has, the school department, their maintenance department is ran that way as it is. They have a maintenance supervisor, and then they have, he has command staff under him basically that dictate where everybody go, and then he just answers to the board and of course the superintendent. So if you were looking for additional materials, so.
Thank you, Commissioner Grindstaff. So I don't know what departments Commissioner Grindstaff was talking about in particular, but I know when we were listening to the Sheriff's Department present their communications needs and ideas, as I studied that situation, it seemed to me like there would need to be a communications director if that ever comes to be. So I don't know, Isaiah, if that was one of the departments you were talking about, but I do think that we're going to probably need to expand and have some other departments as we grow and improve.
Yes, that was one of those departments, as well as, just recently with COVID, we've come into the need of technology department, and we've used Aaron and we've used Anthony, we've used Gary relentlessly to kind of push all this forward. So eventually, county-wide, we're going to have to look at developing something there as well. And I think that these all kind of fall into each other in some aspects.
Agreed. Anything else from anybody on this topic? I'll apologize again for not having that ready tonight. I will continue to work on it. You all can think about I guess the one big question that's come up tonight, and that will be part of the vote when we do vote, just like every other line of that job description will be. So it's not over. Just keep thinking, keep talking, researching. Anybody want to give, especially the mayor or Ms. Woodby, an update on Northeast State and their plans, their desires?
Well, like I say, last time they were on, Dr. Floor was online with us. I just talked to him like one time since then. Nothing's really changed, what their offers were, but it came out of that meeting. I had one of my buddies come the next day and said that I had made an offer to give the whole property away, and I did not say that. And he said, "What are you trying to do?" He said, "You just committed political suicide." I said, "What?" He said, "You're giving the whole property." I said, "I didn't say that." I said, "Either we help them with their lease, or we give them that one building." I said, "No, I never said the whole." But anyway, that's that's up to you guys what you really want to do with this. And but I will be talking with them more. But they are going to stay with us. They've paid their rent through 21, July 21, I think it is.
Chairwoman Holdren.
Yes, Commissioner James.
If I may, I'd like to get the rest of the committee to weigh in on this so we can just kind of direct away, because I know we just keep asking the mayor every month over and over about this. Personally, myself, Mayor, I'll just be honest with you. I'm behind negotiating the lease and us retaining the asset, especially with the fact if our school systems consider on using any bit of the space, in my opinion, educating our students out of our schools with taxpayer money is first priority. So I don't want to do anything, whatever that might be, until we definitely know for sure as to how they can utilize the facility. Does anybody else have anything to weigh in on that so we can kind of give him a way to direct? Because I know we just keep asking him about what every month, and we're not really giving him the direction of what way we as a committee would like to go.
I believe we have plenty of room for both our kids and Northeast State. We've got plenty of room up there. I mean,
oh, I agree completely. I think that both us and Northeast State can utilize the facility. My only issue about it is I just want to make sure that, we don't do something like give the facility to them and then we have to turn around and our county has to turn around and lease the space back off of them for our students. Is my only concern in that nature of why I say I want to, before, I'm more on board with negotiating a better lease term for them. So we make sure that we do the utmost to benefit our school system before anything. And that's just why I was trying to get the committee input on it so we can kind of direct you, because I know every month we just kind of go around and around with it and don't really tell you, Mayor, this is what we're looking for as a committee and this is what we'd like to try to approve.
Chairman, if
Yes, please.
the negotiating of the lease negates the Board of Regents' ability to invest in upfitting the property. There are layers to this. Ogres have layers and onions have layers, and so does the Northeast State complex. But if they were in possession of the building in an ownership capacity, Dr. Flora, Dr. Now Bullock indicated that they would be able to do more toward upfitting and making it comparable to the level of their other facilities, whereas they would not be allowed to do that by the regulations of the Board of Regents in a leasehold property. So, I really like what the schools are cooking, or at least beginning to look at. I like the notion of that becoming an educational compound, and there's a lot of opportunities for dual enrollments, walking across the quad from one educational concern to another. And I think there's a hybrid solution in here that would get us the best of all worlds if we just listen to all the presentations, put them all out on the table and vet them properly as a whole instead of piecemeal. And I do wholeheartedly agree that the architect on staff on retainer would be a great asset. And I'll yield back. Thanks for the time.
Chairwoman Holdren, I'd like to address that with Commissioner Hill, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Another option, Mike, is that, I understand they're not allowed to do improvements to a leasehold property, but in a commercial leasing world, they could advise us of what improvements they need. We could front that cost up front. They sign a 10-year contract. We'll balance that out over the lease. So they'll get what they need improved, and it's not actually being expensed out of their pocket. It's coming out as a lease payment. So that's another option for us to get around to try to get them what they need, with also being able to retain the facility, and improve the facility at the same time. And then maybe also figuring out a hybrid thing while we're in the building remodeling for them. We figure out how our school systems can utilize the facility and try to remodel that out with them. I think it'd be an awesome idea when it got down to it. And, what a great thing that if we keep Northeast State, we keep the property, we start a lot more of co-op with them. And, we do a lot more to get kids ready to go off to whatever their career choice may be. and I think that's one thing that would really help our school system. As me and McAfee talked about, there's just so many that has let go of their vocationals. And I mean, every child just is not going to go to college. And if you try to push them that path, you're just setting them up for failure. I mean, that's about the only way about it. So to have something like that along with the college there, I think would be terrific. So anything I think that we as a committee or as a county can do to help either one of those, I think we should definitely put our time into doing it.
Chairwoman Holder, can I address some of that, please? Since I've been in the Board of Regents system for almost 40 years now, they're not going to bring anything to the table to invest more dollars into that facility. It would be an opportunity, and I agree with Commissioner Hill on this, even if we had a ground lease that we maintained the actual property, if they ever left us, all of their improvements and anything else would revert back to the county. But we're not going to get any of the opportunities that they have currently designed at Blunttville, for instance. We're not going to get a performing arts center. We're not going to get a number of other facilities that they have designed because they're not going to invest in that building. I've sat in too many Board of Regents meetings. I've been in Nashville at the Tennessee Board of Regents operations site, and I've heard them talk endlessly about we are not investing in buildings we do not own. So if we're serious about a partnership, I'm, as well as anybody else, looking for a hybrid where they'll invest dollars into that facility. I agree also with Commissioner Johnson. I think having an AE firm on board, we're going to find out exactly how expensive this whole proposition is to upgrade this property anyway. We may want to be shed a part of it. So I didn't say all of it. I'm there with the mayor. Didn't say all of it, but we need to be thinking about how we get them to invest in that property and set before them some things that we think would enhance our community that we could attract state dollars to and that they would be willing to invest. So thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? The only thought that's come to me that's different from what you all have said is there may be some legal issues concerning having high school students and college students in the same building that we'll have to look at. And I know that there are special circumstances that have to be addressed where that's concerned. I wish that Dr. Bullock, is that right, Bullock, could be a little bit more forthcoming about what they would do for sure, instead of being as vague as she's being right now. And I know she can't promise what she doesn't have ultimate control over, but it's hard for us to make decisions and vote on things without knowing exactly what we're voting on. So I would like to encourage those of you that speak with her to try to get some more solid answers, while we also try to get some solid propositions from Carter County Schools.
Madam Chairman.
Yes.
She did allude to the fact that there would be a more deluxe assortment of gets with an ownership situation as opposed to a leasehold situation. And she actually said, if you recall, that she hated talking in what did they call that? Academies or something like that, but that she wasn't allowed to go any further than that, but that their options were much greater in an ownership position as opposed to a leasehold position. I mean, she was trying to testify without testifying that there's a better, higher and highest and best use of the property in store if we seriously examine donating a portion or coming to some sort of agreement like that, as opposed to continuing in a lease.
Commissioner James, it just occurred to me that the warehouse behind the Northeast State Building has come available today. Is that right?
Sunday, ETSU is picking up some tables and things, and they'll be completely cleared out Sunday.
Okay, do we need to have any discussion tonight about what we're going to do with that space?
I mean, we can talk about it. I mean, if there's something that we can utilize it for as a county, if we need space, or if there's somewhere else, something we can do. We can always keep it open, and maybe, Mayor, remind me, is that facility fenced all the way at the back, all the way around?
I want to say yes. But I'm not 100% sure.
I can't remember. Best I can remember, though, that warehouse last time I was in it, which wasn't very long ago, was quite secure. I don't believe, I think it's mostly metal doors and not really any windows. And if there is, maybe there's bars over it and everything's secure. I mean, I think a good use for it, if we decide if we need to lease some space or something, we may have to move maybe some files or something from one of the offices that Patty's office that has up there. That would make a great storage space for them, because it does have lights and concrete floors, and I believe it was insulated and everything. So, if we get to need more office space, that might be somewhere that they might be able to utilize to put some of their files for now.
How's that sound, Woodby?
Just FYI, we just feel that 2 more of those offices that's there with files.
Well, and that's why
if we
warehouse
keep going,
well,
we're going to have it full.
That warehouse might be a really good option for y'all, because I believe it's about 5,000 square feet. And then you would have everything in one place, instead of, you might be able to put you some shelves in there and actually get some organization, because I've seen some of the other that you got, and Lord help y'all how you find anything in that. I don't know. You just, Lord, there's boxes on top.
They're organized. I know where everything's at up there.
It's not easy accessible, I guess is what I'm getting at, because sometimes you got to take 4 or 5 boxes down to get to the one you need. But that's something you all can communicate with the mayor and see if that'll work for y'all. And, maybe we can even have to at request and allocate some money for some shelving or something for y'all to put out there to be able to shelve that down through there and give y'all a really good storage space.
Okay.
Because like I said, I think it's about 5,000 square feet, and I believe it isn't cooled. I know that. There's maybe fans in there, but I do know there was the boiler, I believe, run out there, if I remember correctly. So it would be heated.
The only concern is it secured with some form of lock, because we use that vault that is in that bottom floor for evidence, and that stuff we keep forever.
Yes. It was pretty secure when we was up there, but if not, if there's some deficiency somewhere, that's something that we can get. I'm sure the mayor can get Mr. Kirby and them to go up there and look and secure everything down really well. And, we can even put bars over the doors and padlock them, so nobody could get into it. I don't think there was any.
Mayor, you've got another job.
I'll do that in between the architect and all that other stuff. Huh?
You taking notes?
Are you keeping a running list?
Boy, I tell you, I'm earning my keep, I guess.
I'm telling you. But that might be a good option, Chairwoman, that we do with that building, because I know our office space will probably at least a lot more than probably what that warehouse will. And I know they're running out of space rapidly, and they're going to have more. And I know last time I was up there, they had quite a few offices occupied.
Okay, well, I know everybody's getting really tired, so it's on the agenda, commissioner comments time. Last chance to assign the mayor something else.
If y'all think about something, also just shoot him an email.
Hey,
And Chairwoman,
go ahead. Oh, sorry.
if I can ask a question, I don't know whatever happened with the Carter at Maine deal. I was that dead in the water. I did the title search like y'all asked me to do, so it wasn't on the agenda. I don't get an agenda, so I never know what you're going to talk about. Is that dead in the water, or where we at?
Mr. James, tell them who's have to take care of this.
The mayor is getting us the appraisal.
Okay, all right.
We're waiting on that. So if you'd like to update us on your title search, then that will give us more information when we decide to move forward.
Okay, well, just, yeah, there's no tax lien anymore. That was released. There's about $500,000 worth of mortgages. That's a few years old, so I don't, they may have been paid down some. The taxes are current, city and county taxes are current. The city of Elizabethton just approved I believe approved the closure of the road. There was a road, whatever it was, East Street or something, that ran straight by the courtyard apartments up by Food City and would have ran straight through there and connected there to Elk. Elk.
Northeast. Northeast.
Yeah. But anyway, that was closed. There is generally through that same vicinity just utility, water line, power line easements, but that's essentially it. And like I said, the tax appraisals, 542,000, and it's around 3.3 total acres. So I would assume that she's asking well above and wouldn't accept anything less than what would pay off the indebtedness. And so there was a little bit of an issue with the deed work. It got conveyed around between Carter at Maine LLC, Carter at Maine Inc., and her personally. And some of those deeds were done at times when the corporations had already been dissolved. So we could fix that issue if it came to that.
Oh, come on. Thank you.
Is it ice cream time?
Sorry, folks.
Okay, thank you, Attorney Harden. Any other comments?
I got one, Chairwoman Ginger.
Mm-hmm.
Been talking to Woodby too much. I make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All right.
Acuff.
All in favor, say yes.
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 All right. Hill, I guess you're up if you want to. Are we not having law enforcement tonight?
There's no agenda. We have nothing before us.
All right.
Good night, everyone.
All right. Enjoy your
John Boy.
Good night, Mary Ellen.
Y'all are sick.
Good night, everybody.